If you think back to your favorite TV show from like a decade ago, maybe you think of The Office, maybe Lost, maybe Grey's Anatomy or something, all those shows and shows up until recently have all been around 20 to 22 episodes per season. They usually released one episode a week and you almost spent half a year with these characters. But in recent years, something has changed. Now, not only do you have to wait 3 years until a new season of your favorite show comes out, for example, Stranger Things, The Last of Us, Game of Thrones. But on top of that, what do you get? You get maybe 8 episodes, only 6 episodes sometimes. And then it's over. You binge it, maybe it comes out for 6 weeks or 8 weeks, and then it completely leaves your mind for 3 or 4 years. And then by the time the next season comes out, you have no idea what is going on because you forgot everything that you watched. And then you have to rewatch the entire seasons that you already watched. TV has changed. It used to be long series of episodes. Now it's just one long movie split up. And while production value is higher than ever, we're all still frustrated. We're not happy with this 8-episode long seasons. They're mad sometimes at the pacing of the shows, and they're mad at there's not as much heart in the shows as there used to be. Today, I want to talk about why this is happening, why we traded 20 episodes of shows for now just 8. And at the end, I have a hopeful prediction of what the future holds and if these 8-episode seasons are going to stay or if they're going to completely evaporate into thin air. So, thank you for joining me. Let's begin. Let's first take a look at what some people are saying about the 8-episode seasons. The first tweet comes from Bianca. The Fallout show would be infinitely better if it had 16 episodes instead of 8. I mean, hell, even just 12 episodes would have been a huge improvement given how many different storylines are happening at once. Fallout deserves to have more than 8 episodes. This is coming from a fan of the Fallout series. I mean, her profile pic is even the main character. A fan of the series wants more content. And they're tired of the 8-episode seasons. This next tweet is kind of more comedy, and it's from a tweet of Stranger Things that says, the Duffer Brothers say they were under pressure from Netflix to finish writing the final episode of #StrangerThings5. And it says, quote, we were getting hammered constantly by production and by Netflix for episode 8. Blah, blah, blah. And then the tweet quote tweets that and says, Netflix kept demanding we finish our work on time. We only had 3 years for 8 episodes. We had to make 12 minutes of TV per month. And this is kind of just being sarcastic that it took 3 years to make this season. And if they only made 12 minutes of film a month, then they would still finish the season. So it's kind of being sarcastic that these guys were saying they're under pressure when they had 3 years to make this show, which I know next to nothing. Maybe the Duffer Brothers were under pressure. It seems pretty unbelievable, though, that 3 years and only 8 episodes. Like, what's the deal with that? And maybe it's because we're losing key aspects of what made TV interesting. These key aspects are being thrown out the window. The word people used to describe episodes that were not directly driving the plot forward were called filler. And obviously, there are some unnecessary filler episodes. But back when they had seasons of TV series that were 20 episodes, there were episodes that would be considered filler by today's standards, but actually were not. And I think the main example of this is Avatar: The Last Airbender. Each season had 20 episodes, each with 20 minutes long. Avatar: The Last Airbender has countless examples of episodes that don't exactly push the plot forward, but still have a ton of character development and world building. For example, there's an episode where Team Avatar encounters a bloodbender. This episode doesn't get the team any closer to defeating the Fire Nation. Instead, this episode takes time to expand the world and then develop the character of Katara. Maybe if you're a Netflix exec, looking at this episode could be pointless because it doesn't actually move the plot forward and people might not think this is interesting. But if you're a fan of The Last Airbender, and of character development in general, this is a key point in Katara's story that develops her as a whole character. Another example of this in Avatar is with Zuko and the beach episode. This is just a classic anime beach episode. Doesn't exactly move the plot forward. However, it is one of the key defining moments for Zuko because it is the time where he understands that he's not mad at anybody outside of him. He's mad at himself. So both these episodes are examples of not the plot being pushed forward, but of characters being developed and worlds being expanded. Think about the tweets we've seen. For example, the Fallout show, it's only 8 episodes long. I think Fallout fans and people in general just wanted more time in the wasteland, wanted more time in the Fallout world. Maybe they wanted to see the main characters go on side quests. But in an 8-episode season, the plot must go forward at all times. And maybe there's some data behind the scenes that says people will stop watching if the plot is not always advancing forward.
And it also ends up having an effect, or is starting to have an effect on how you make movies. Like, for instance, Netflix, you usually have like 3 set pieces, one in the first act, one in the second, one in the third. And, they kind of ramp up, and the big one with all the explosions, and you spend most of your money on that one in the third act. That's your kind of finale. And now they're like, can we get a big one in the first 5 minutes to get somebody, we want people to stay.
Yeah.
And, it wouldn't be terrible if you reiterated the plot 3 or 4 times in the dialogue, because people are on their phones while they're watching, you know what I mean?
Oh, no.
And so then it's going to really start to infringe.
So we've traded 22 episodes that are 20 or 30 minutes long for 8 episodes that are hours long. On paper, it's probably around the same amount of time, but in practice, it's a completely different experience. Hour-long episodes are supposed to be portals where you can just sit down and enter that world. Instead, a lot of these modern-day shows, I've sat down and not been transported, and instead of an hour-long escape, it's been an hour-long prison, and I've seen better world building and better character development of a single 20-minute episode than I've seen in a modern-day whole season of TV. I'm almost convinced the first episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender has more world building and more character development than entire seasons of modern-day shows. But why are studios doing this? I have some theories, and I think you're going to like them. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you guys, if you're enjoying this video, please drop a like, comment, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. It'll only take like 10 seconds. And while you're there, hit that share button and send this to somebody you know that will enjoy this message. Send this to somebody who's been complaining about the hour-long episodes and the 8-episode seasons that don't drive the plot at all. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for sharing this video. It's people like you that make this channel grow, and I'm very thankful for you. So thank you so much, and let's get on to the rest of the video. Studio execs, just like YouTube, is obsessed with completion rate. They're obsessed with watch time. I wonder if there's data to show that if a TV series is 20 episodes, people are less likely to start it than if it was just 8 episodes. Or if a series is 20 episodes and a couple of those aren't driving the plot, if people drop off and stop watching it. I think this is actually pretty likely, because there wouldn't be this type of trend if there wasn't something behind the scenes that supported it. Maybe us as a group who watch TV shows, maybe the majority of us actually deep down prefer the 8-episode long series. And if we don't physically and emotionally feel like we prefer it, maybe our behaviors say something different. I also think there's a budget problem. Shows like Stranger Things cost $30 million to make each episode. House of Dragons, $20 million. And Rings of Power, the Amazon show, that was like probably like a multi-$100 million business write-off. And when episodes cost this much to make, I don't think studios can just make 20 episodes like that. I think the studios think if there's a show that's not 8 episodes of cinematic masterpiece, super expensive, super high quality, that people are not going to watch it. And when you think of it, in kind of the most popular TV series have been following this trend. The Fallout series, 8 episodes, each episode being super expensive. House of Dragons, each episode being super expensive. Severance, one of my favorite shows, pretty short seasons, each episode costing millions of dollars to make. Maybe this style of shows is what drives people to watch it. Maybe this is what we actually want. We may say that we prefer the longer seasons, but do our habits actually follow that? If there's ever a experimental TV show that has more episodes than just 8, and it goes under the radar and nobody talks about it, maybe that'll be the proof that this 8-episode seasons is actually true and actually needs to be done. But until then, people will just keep saying that there's not enough episodes. And in my mind, I don't really understand why they wouldn't want longer seasons. Because imagine, if you have a show that's 20 episodes, or not even 20 episodes, if you have a show that's 16 or 15 episodes long, that is 15 or 16 weeks of releases. And that's like, 4 months of people paying your subscription service? So why wouldn't you want more episodes? That's something that I'm curious about. If I was Netflix and I had a popular show like Stranger Things, wouldn't you want to cut that up and make it longer so that people can pay for your subscription for longer? I don't know. And I don't know why they keep it at just 8 episodes. One TV show that recently came out that's kind of going in that direction, not of the short seasons, but of the shorter episodes, is the Game of Thrones series The show's called A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, and each episode is 30 to 40 minutes long. It's not as long as normal Game of Thrones episodes. However, there are only 6 episodes in the first season. So maybe this is just a test to see if we can indulge in shorter episodes. Maybe for season 2 of this show, they do 16 episodes that are 30 minutes long. Who knows? We're in a kind of a weird era where TV is trying to be cinema, and sometimes even more popular. I personally think TV shows should have more character and world building. I'm tired of having to be locked into the TV show that is driving the plot forward every single second. And one of my most favorite TV shows of recent times is Pluribus. And in that TV show, not every episode completely drives the story forward. Some episodes in that show are just to develop the character, maybe develop the world a little bit. Maybe to make a joke, they take some time. However, even Pluribus only had 9 episodes, which is more than 8, but it's still not in the double digits. I'd like to see 12 episodes per season for these new shows. And if that takes adding some filler that is character and world building in between episodes, or maybe even within episodes, to expand it to 12 episodes, I'll take it. We don't need huge CGI fight scenes or huge, extravagant, expensive scenes. Maybe you just take an extra 10 minutes inside the episode to develop a character or develop the world. Maybe you have a character run a quick little 20-minute side quest within an episode. Doing this across the entire season will extend the show forward, and it doesn't even need to cost that much more of your budget. You can make an entire 20-minute segment that advances the character and advances the character's personality, take place all in one room with just people talking to each other. But do you guys agree with me? Do you think the trends are going to follow this same episode movie cinematic formula, or do you think they're going to change with more time? Let me know in the comments below. Remember to subscribe, like, and comment, and share this with somebody who you think would enjoy it. Guys, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace and love. Ciao.